attempt to record this one. Let's see. All right. So on this one, can you go ahead and find your vertex?
No.
No, you have to do some work first. So what is the work that needs to be done?
Add 4.
Okay, you need to add 4 at some point. Okay, so you could subtract x squared, but there's one thing that you got to be careful of. You want this to be positive. Always want your x squared to be positive. So if you move the x squared, it becomes negative. So I would probably work on getting this to the other side. So if this is a positive 4x, you need to subtract it. Now, that's not to say, like, if you had wanted to subtract the x squared, you just have to divide everything by -1. So you could do that. It's about the same amount of steps. So 1x squared minus 4x equals, what's left on the other side? -4. And then lastly, you would add 4. Don't combine anything because they are not what? Like terms. Okay, now you can do your vertex. So y'all want to go and try the rest of this? Okay. The x equals opposite of b over 2a for your vertex. Okay, quickly just check your x value. What are y'all getting for your x? 2. Does everybody agree with 2? Okay, when you had to substitute it back in, remember you're substituting into the original or into the new, guys? The new one, which is, if you've got to box that in or something to remember that, this is what you use from here on out. Okay, sub it into the original and you got what?
0.
0. So your y was 0. Whoops. So 2, 0 was your vertex. You should actually know your solutions immediately when you plot that point, because a parabola has to open up or it has to open down. So even when you think about it as far as whether it opened up or down, it's only crossing how many times? 1, because that's the vertex. So what is your solution on this one? Okay, like, where is it crossing? 1, 2. So your solution is x equals 2. Now, what points did y'all use in this?
1, 1, 3, 1.
Okay, 1, 1, and then 3, 1. That lets you graph it. So this is one of those ones where your zeros aren't necessarily the points in the table. Okay. And this is actually, it does have a solution. So the no solutions and the 1 solutions are the ones where you want points other than the solution. And make sure you have...
Okay, so the 0 came from the equation.
The 0 came from the equation? This time it did. Okay, now you could look in the table. You'll still see the 0 in the table. It'll say 2, 0 somewhere in there. Do you see the 2, 0? Okay, so you can look at the table, or when you plot the vertex, it pops up on the x-axis. So either way, it's going to work. Okay. Okay, so on this one, 1/2 x squared minus 4 equals 0. This is not a factoring problem. It is just an algebraically, one we want to solve algebraically. So, what is the first thing you got to do on this one to get x by itself?
Add 4.
Add 4 first, yes. Zero plus 4 gives you 4. And then what are you left with on the other side? 1/2 x squared. Now, how are we supposed to eliminate the 1/2? Do the reciprocal. Multiply by the reciprocal, which is what?
2 over 1.
2 over 1. On both sides. Don't do it just on one side. What does that give you on the other side?
8.
8. And then this is x squared. Don't forget the square. It's not just 8. 8's not the answer. And just a hint, if it says round to the nearest tenth, you better be looking for something to happen. Okay, so what's the next thing that we need to do? Take the square root. The other day, because it wasn't in the instructions, I made y'all keep the square root around it. But if it says to round, go ahead and take the square root. So the square root of 8 is approximately, for rounding to the nearest tenth, how many decimals is that?
Over 2.
1. Okay. Just let's talk about that real quick. This is the tenth. This is the hundredths, and then this is the thousandths. We're going to put some stats, a couple stats questions on the test, okay? So you got to remember all that rounding, okay? So be paying attention to that. So what is it? What are we getting when we round to the 10th place? 2.8. Now if you do this, I'm fixing to count it off. Plus and minus. A square root means plus and minus, unless it's an application problem you're dealing with length. Then it's just plus. So x equals plus or minus 2.8. You can do the plus or minus, or you can list them separately. What do y'all normally do?
Plus minus.
Plus minus. Who wants to write two answers down, right? It don't matter. Okay. So, factoring 0 equals 6x cubed. Let's write it down.
Can you move the 0 to the back?
Plus, yes, if you want to do, if it makes you feel more comfortable to write the 0 on the other side, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, this is the one on the homework that might have messed you up. Okay. The cube part messed us up. If you see a cube, we want you to pull out a what? An X. Okay. We don't. Yeah. I'm not going to give you one with a cube that doesn't have an X that you can't pull out. Okay. You're going to pull an X out if you have a cube. All right. We've not done anything where we're taking cube roots yet. Okay. All right. So we're looking for a GCF, right? So obviously we know from the conversation we just had to pull out an X and a 3. The one last night you only pulled out an X, I believe. Okay.
It was 8.
Okay. So when you divide 3x out, what are you left with? 2x squared plus x. 3 divided by 3 is a 1x. And minus 3. Okay, this is what you're using for your factoring problem. Okay, so I don't know if you need to box it in or what. But something else you pulled out, that 3x is important. What are you supposed to do with it?
Put it outside parentheses.
Technically, if you were just factoring the problem, yes, you'd put it outside the parentheses. In this case, we're using factoring to solve, so you set it equal to 0. Okay? Divide by 3, and you get x is equal to 0. So immediately, you write that in your solution. Huh? You have to write that. If you don't write down x equals 0 on these where you're pulling x out, it's wrong. Okay? And also look, there's a 3 right here. The exponent tells you the max number of solutions you can have. So if you have a cubic, you can possibly have 3 solutions. So make sure that you're looking to pull the x out, set it equal to 0.
Okay, so we're not doing a box on this one?
Yes, we are, because this is only one solution. We need to look to see if it has 2 more.
So where's
Okay.
this come from? What piece when you did this?
The x right here. You pulled out a 3x. Let me write it like this. It's 3x now times 2x squared plus 1x minus 3. equals 0. This is like it's in parentheses. It's a factor. Okay, 3x is a factor of this. So anything that's a factor, you set equal to 0. Now we have to find the factors right here and then set them equal to 0. Does that help just a little bit?
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe? Okay. So maybe you need to write it out like that so you can remember to set it equal to 0. Okay, so now we take what and factor it? What piece? 2x squared, 1, and negative 3. So we come over here and we're doing a times c and b. What was a times c? Negative 6, which was 2 times negative 3. And then your b was 1. Oops. So if you divide by 1, you get 6. Does that make 1? No. 2. Divide by 2 and you get 3. Can 2 and 3 make 1?
Yes.
Yes, but which one has to be negative?
2.
Okay. So then you do the box. What goes in the first box? Is it 6x or 2x? 2x squared. Last box is a negative. Woo! 3. Negative 3.
I looked at the wrong.
Yeah. Make sure that, like I said, I don't know if you know, like star it or circle it, so you make sure you're using the right numbers. And then, what do you want to put on the top? Negative 2x, and then the bottom a 3x. Now it doesn't really matter which one you put where. That just makes it easier to me. What are you pulling out of the top?
X.
X and a 2. The bottom you can pull out a 3. X minus, yes. Negative 2 divided by 2 gives you a negative 1. Now these are factors. Previously we stopped here and then we just did our parentheses and then we would have put like 3x in the front. Okay. But this is a factor so we can do what?
Don't you let's say each of those that's in the parentheses is
Equal to 0.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
So
what I did on my homework, right?
2x minus or plus 3 equals 0. Then x minus 1 equals 0. Okay, so what are we getting, guys?
Yup. And then 1.
Yeah, negative 3 over 2. And then a positive 1. So anytime you have a cube, I would be looking for 3 answers. All the ones we have given you thus far have had 3. Now, later on in life, you might find some that don't have 3. Okay, but be checking. Okay, y'all can check all of these by doing what with them?
Put them back in.
Putting them back in. I would put them back into the original. Okay, if you don't put it back in the original, you might not get it right. All right. All right, so far we have said that the length is 3W, which W is what? You do need to write this down. What does W represent?
Or, no, that's it.
Width. You're just, I'm not, one of them is actually going to be a word most of the time, okay? So one is going to be an expression, the other one is going to be the word, and it's normally this last word right here, width, okay? Area is 40 square meters, so you need a formula. What kind of shape are we talking about?
Rectangle.
A rectangle, so that would be what? Length times width. And we know that that area is what? 40. So where does the 40 go?
Outside.
Outside in the A spot. And then what are we subbing into? Are we going to sub into the L or the W?
L.
The L. And what are we putting in there?
3W minus 2.
The 3W minus 2. And then you're multiplying by W. Now, some of you yesterday were like, can we put the W in the front? Can you?
Yes.
Yes. Now, I'm just going to leave it as is.
Do you do ACB on this one?
You do ACD.
Yes, eventually.
Because I got you.
Okay, you got me. So what do we do next? Distribute, right? 3W squared minus 2W equals 40. Yes, you got to get what on the other side? 40 on the right side, and you want 0 on the left side. Now you can do what?
Fact. No.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
A, C, and B. Do y'all want to try it from this point? Okay. Okay, what was A times C in this case, guys?
120, negative 120.
Yeah, negative 120. And then negative 2.
120, negative 120.
So you would have done 120. 2 would have been 60. 3, 40. This is kind of a
10, 20.
dot,
10,
dot,
12.
dot.
It's 10, 12.
10 and
12.
But you put the negative
12.
in it.
yes. Okay. Do we understand why the negative goes with the 12?
Because it's
Negative 2. 10 plus negative 12 gives you negative 2. Your box. If y'all are still working, just keep on going. I'm just kind of trying to catch up with y'all. 3W squared, negative 40. Did y'all put the 10 on the top or the bottom? The bottom. 10W and negative 12W. Pulled out a what on the top? 3W. That left you with a W and a minus 4. The bottom you divided out a, should have been a 10. And zeros you find by saying W minus 4 equals 0. 3W plus 10 equals 0. Could you use both of these? Yes, no, maybe so.
Yes, I don't know.
We don't know.
I don't think
We just work and
And just,
pray it all comes out at the end.
you forgot about the cleaner.
Can I be completely real with you? That's what I be doing.
So we get W is equal to negative 10 thirds. Okay, we are talking about a rectangle. So this is where I was saying you got to stop and think for just a minute.
Is this a negative?
This is a negative. So I want to see in your work where you like X through that or something so you don't use that number. You're not going to stop here and tell me that your length is 4 and your width is negative 10 thirds. Because you only get one answer right here. Okay? What do you have to do next to find the length? You got to go back to the length equation, which is L is equal to 3W minus 2. What number are you putting in? Your 4. Which length is 3 times 4 minus 2 is 10. Area is supposed to be.
60 to 40, sorry.
At the very beginning it said area was 40, which is length times width. What was your length? 10. And what was your width? 4, which is 40. That means you've got, hopefully, the correct numbers. Okay? If it doesn't come out to be 40, you know you're definitely not right.